My name is Mohib Zara. I'm a developer advocate with LIVEWire. LIVEWire is a powerful suite of tools to help you build everything from IVR interactive voice robots to creating your own video conferencing applications, which you can customize and embed in the browser and scale to hundreds, if not thousands, of concurrent users. Today I'm excited to show you a couple of demos using one of our new features called Programmable Video Communication. Essentially, we've taken what we've built for a number of our internal applications and for our customers and turned that into something you can embed. So with just a few lines of code, you can create a persistent video room and embed it anywhere. And so through this example, you'll be able to create and embed your own video conferences and then customize them and be able to react to the events that occur and do things like calculate the talk time of various users in the room, or create integrations with Slack, or even hijack the video pipeline using Google Media Pipeline and replace your background or create a background blur. And all of these things you can do in pure HTML and JavaScript. And you can embed this in a React app as well. But going forward, I'll show you everything that you can do and then leave the floor open for you to go on and hack. So let's get started. We've created a repository on our GitHub called LIVEWire PVC examples. This includes a number of examples at the time of publishing this video. One of them, of course, like as I've mentioned, is a background blur, background replacement, as well as calculate talk time and log it out, and also our Slack integration. We're going to start with the basics for the first example I show you, but before we get there, let's take a look at the video conferences user interface. So when you log into your LIVEWire account and go to the video tab, you can select conferences, and in here it'll list all your persistent conference rooms. So if we want to create a new one, we can call it test 4. We'll say UI included. So now this has created a conference room that I can join by just clicking. Or I can embed it. And I can do two versions of it, one in which I'm a guest and one in which I'm a moderator. And this is all the code you need to embed this conference room in an HTML page. And you can also embed this in a WordPress site or anywhere else on an existing application. In Code Sandbox, a cloud-based code exploration tool, I'm going to create a new sandbox, create a static HTML5 website, and we're just going to use this to try out this embed code. So we'll put this here in the body. Again, it's just a script tag and it includes a couple of things. Mainly it brings out one of our JavaScript SDKs for pre-built rooms. And it also includes the token of my room. Now I can also inject other properties, such as a username, so that it's included throughout this room. Now if I just hit Control S and save, I've now embedded that video room. And now you can see me with my other camera. And of course, the basic guest embed code allows you to mute and unmute audio and video. In the moderator, which we'll embed now, this will allow us to do a number of other things. So we're going to just copy, paste over what we had already placed, hit save again. And now you'll notice I have other options. So I can change the layout, I can share screen, or I can start recording. And then these recordings can be available elsewhere on the LIVEWire dashboard. So that's great and all, but all that's really done is give us a conference room, which is pretty fantastic, pretty powerful that we can embed that anywhere. But what if we want to take that further? Well, the cool thing is this script here, we can modify it and subscribe to events. So to do that, And of course, these are all in our examples, but we're going to just kind of write it out from here. So we're going to stick to the moderator embed code for now. And right here where we have our SignalWire pre-built video room, what we can do after that is drop in. So we're going to add a username first. We're going to add this comma here. We're going to uncomment this line. We'll leave it your name for test. But what we can do now is pass in a function here, set up room session, and this returns our room session object. And in here, we can subscribe to events. So if we take the room session and say on, room session.on, let's say member talking, member.talking. And that gives us back params. And this includes information about the room, the members, and what's going on. So in params, and then we can say console.log params. We'll hit save again. Now if we open up the console here, when I start talking, we should see an event occur. Test, test. 1, 2. 1, 2. And if we look, yeah, so we have this down here. We see it returns back the room ID, the room session ID, and a member, and this is the member that's talking. So it says talking is false or true. And basically, when I start talking, we'll get an event that says talking true. When I stop talking, we get an event that says talking false. Now you can use this to start calculating how long someone is talking and do things based on that. And that's why we have an example for calculating talk time and then logging it out visually. So let's take what we've just done. And so we've done the basics. We've subscribed to an event. There's actually a number of events you can subscribe to. So I'll show you how to use these examples. If we go back to the SignalWire PVC examples, click on Basics, click on index.html, just go ahead and click on Raw. We'll copy that whole thing, and we'll paste it back into here in our code sandbox. Now, the difference here is this code has already been written, but we're passing in a room token. We're doing some pretty funky stuff here. But now I need that room token, right? And it's in here in this embed code, but you can also go back to the dashboard and copy the guest token and just paste it in there and hit save again. And so this example has a couple of other things around it. Now, if you're really building this app out, you might put auth0 or some other identity and authentication around your conference rooms. But in this case, we're doing a very basic, just there's a text box form, you pass in your username and then hit join room, and this join room function basically gets those values and then injects that similar to the embed code but with some modifications into a DOM element. So that way it's not actually loaded or showing yet until, of course, you provide a username. So this kind of gives you an idea of how you can just use this to inject it. And of course, you could use our video SDKs to build your own user interface and your own conferencing and your own elements. But the whole point of PVC is to take some of that effort out so that you can focus on where you want to put your video conference. So right in here, we've subscribed to all the events that you can subscribe to. And what we have happen is whenever those events happen, we call this log events function, which basically just embeds, it takes those parameters, that JSON object, stringifies it, and displays it on a div element. So let's go ahead and test that. So test name, and we'll hit join room. And see, as it joins, we'll see all the events that occur. And so the reason for this demo is so that you can kind of experiment and see what these events look like and come up with ideas of what you can do with that moving forward. So we're going to go ahead and leave that room. So we've seen how that works. So let's see what else we can do. So I mentioned the calculating talk time. So I've actually got this already loaded up in another code sandbox. And so I'll show you how this works before we dive into what's going on in here. So now if I start talking, it says I'm talking, but when I stop talking, it tells you how long I've been talking. So this is pretty straightforward. It might look a little daunting, but similarly, it's like the basic example, except we're only taking a few events. In this case, taking when a member joins, when a member leaves, when a member is talking, and when you first join the room. And there's a reason we only want these events. Because we have the event that tells us when someone is talking and when they stop talking, we can do something with that, but we get back an ID and not a name. So we need to start keeping track of our participants of this room. So we see when we join the room, first thing we do is we create a participant list. So up here we've got another function, and all this does is it goes through the members that are in the room when you first join and pushes them to a participants array and adds some properties, some arbitrary properties that we're going to use to calculate and keep track of talk time. In this case, whether they're speaking and their total time speaking. And then when a member leaves, we just remove them from that list. And when a member joins, we make them active again. And then once the member.talking event kicks off, we run this log talking function. And in this function, first thing we do is we check, right? When I showed you earlier that JSON object, or that event that we got for when I started talking, it's inside member.talking, whether it's true or false. So we grab that variable, and then we want the participant ID. Now this is based off of the member ID. First we want to see, do we have that in our participant list? So we use the member ID that came in from this event, and then we save that as a participant ID variable, and then we grab that member name because we created this participant array that has it keyed by the member ID. And then we find that and we have our member name. So that's the name of whoever, that's the username, the display name of that participant ID. And if they're talking, so if talking is true, we're going to add a property start time. And that start time is going to be the current date at the time of when we got this event. And we're going to start off by setting total time to 0. We're basically just resetting it, saying, hey, this is starting fresh. And then we're going to log that event out. So we just create a text string here, nothing fancy, and then call out our log events, which is similar to what's in the basic example, the boilerplate, where we're just injecting that text into an HTML element. And then on the inverse one, if they're not talking, we take the total time that they have, so we do a plus equal, and then we do the current date minus the participants, the minus the start time. So we do the current time in seconds, so this is the Linux epoch, right? Minus the time that we started, and that gives you the difference, basically milliseconds. And then we reset the start time to 0. And then, of course, we log it out again. Now, you can get fancier with this, right? You can do things where, based on how long people are talking, create a log and publish that somewhere else, say like Airtable. And we do have an example for that in the Slack integration. There is an example of using Airtable and calculating time. And all the instructions will be on this GitHub repo. If you want to dive deeper and you want to get crazier, I'll show. Let's go through one more example. I want to show the background blur and replace. So we have this in background blur. So this is something I already loaded earlier. This example is in here, and this example is in here. And what we're going to do, instead of the way I had it earlier, where you had a variable in here, you're just going to go down to the script, and this is where you would replace your token. So we'll refresh this. So now we're in the room, and now we start the media pipeline. And you can see here, right, this is me in the conference room, and then this is me pulling out my video and replacing it using Google Media Pipeline. But now I can stream it, and now it's replacing my media stream that gets pushed up to SignalWire. Likewise, we can modify this. Let's replace this with the background replace, which only does a little bit of different things. It's actually right here, and we can just copy and replace that section of the background blur. So right here on selfie segmentation on results, which is doing all the background blur logic, we're going to replace that with background replace. Now it's going to panic because I don't actually have that image, but it'll still show you that it's replacing. So it didn't get the image because it's not uploaded to Code Sandbox. So right now it's just blank. Another example of what you can do when you really take PVC to above and beyond is this amazing example by one of our other engineers where you can use PVC to create an entire application. So all of these are programmable video conferences, and you can find or search them, and the only way to access them is through logging in using auth0. So if I click sign in here, redirect me, and now I can join these conference rooms. And this is all built using PVC and HTML and JavaScript. And the link to building this or trying this demo out on your own will be included in that PVC examples GitHub repository, as well as we'll drop the link in the video. Having shown you all that, I hope that you'll go on and make some pretty amazing and interesting projects. This is a new feature. This is probably going to be lots of changes in the coming future, but we're excited to keep building with you in the community. Please reach out to us on Twitter, on Slack, find us online, and so we're at signalwire.com, and we'll see you at the next thing. Cheers and hack on.